Welcome to In-Person AmityCast. I'm Ellis.
Matthew?
Yes, he is. Feels weird to do this actually looking at you. But yeah, we're back. So we didn't do one last week. We were too busy with all the Spider-Man hype. But we have now seen Spider-Man No Way Home. Probably the biggest monetary release of the year. And it's now time to discuss.
Besides Jungle Cruise.
There will be spoilers later on. We will give a warning as to when that will be. Did you say besides Jungle Cruise?
The film has a jungle in it, The Rock. I will fully finance this.
It's true. It's true.
You know people want The Rock to be Terminator?
Why?
Because he's big.
They just want The Rock to do everything. They want him to be president.
He wants to be James Bond.
Why?
Because he's black. I don't know. People want Idris Elba to be James Bond. He's like, fine, I'll do Knuckles.
Do I look like I need your power? Oh, man.
Oh, Spider-Man.
The Sonic 2 trailer was...
It was before this movie. People were, talking about it. I heard people, talking around this, being like, oh my god, it looks so good.
They were going crazy about it. I don't...
And Tommy has the best line. He's like, guys, let's not be children. It looks, watchable, but terrible.
It looks pretty bad.
Looks like an improvement.
I don't think it's going to be good, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Speaking of bridges, the bridge fight.
So, how do you feel about Spider-Man No Way Home?
Honestly, the first time I saw it was I really loved it. I've seen it twice. That's about it.
That's about it. That's all I got.
It was really good to see with people actually reactions. Because when I watched it the second time, there was less. There was still reactions, and the end they all clapped, which didn't happen at ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alec clapped, and I was like, don't you hate this movie? And then, but it was a lot weirder to watch about reactions because I don't know. It's a big reaction film. It's kind of the same with Endgame. I can't really ever watch it the same as I did that first time.
Right.
We saw it a day early too, which was probably even nicer because there was even more just fans there.
Right. Yeah.
People freaked out. A spoiler when Daredevil showed up. Half the people didn't even know who he was.
Right. Yeah.
Which I haven't seen the Netflix show. I heard it's really good. I want to watch it, but I don't know if it's canon. So
yeah,
I haven't gone on my way.
I don't know anything about
I heard it's actually excellent, and each season's really good, and then they just canceled it because for whatever reason. Because they also brought back Kingpin, so.
Well, that's Netflix for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens at the very beginning, which the whole first half hour is just them being a sequel to Far From Home.
Yeah,
and that's probably my least favorite part. It's still good. It's just it's very jumbled and messy and kind of goes through a lot of things fast.
Yeah, it's a little messy in the beginning because they're trying to establish.
There's some good comedy out at least. I remember Ned with his interrogation where he's just they're just actually making him say stuff and he's withhold that please.
He's we remove that from the record.
And then also Ned has actually a few good moments because at the end it's oh yeah, you have a friend, you have a best friend. He's yeah. He died in my arms. He
died in my arms after trying to kill me.
That's very sad.
And then it's oh.
Yeah, Allie didn't know what he was talking about at all. And the whole time she watched the Raimi show, she's is he going to stab him? You really should have seen any of these movies before you walked in this.
Yeah, I mean.
She hasn't seen Civil War. So she didn't even know Spider-Man's introduction and this whole bond with Tony Stark. She just watched Homecoming.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, then how?
She was still sad though. That was weird.
Yeah, No Way Home. It's a pretty big MCU movie.
I hate the title.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. But I hate all these home titles and their obsession with having home.
Yeah,
in the title.
if they ended up doing the next Tom
it's been
Holland
confirmed.
It's been confirmed.
Spider-Man 4 is confirmed.
Yeah, that's right. So I hope they don't stick to the home monikering. I hope they switch that up a little bit. But
not to mention, I absolutely love that suit at the end. It's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which there was a good point about that. I saw a theory or whatever about why he even made the suit. It's because since now the Stark suits won't work for him because they don't know who he is because the whole world forgot he even exists. So he has to make his own again. I didn't even realize that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
we weren't in spoiler territory yet, but
yeah. I already said Daredevil's in the movie.
Well, yeah, but you gave a brief spoiler warning for that. We haven't even discussed.
Basically, watch this if you've seen the movie. Why are you watching a podcast? Tommy's in
Yeah.
here.
Anyway.
Bro, fucking Tobey Maguire. Andrew Garfield was actually his whole interview where he said he wasn't in it was actually a lie.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
So, so having prior knowledge of all the Spider-Man films before this, it would have helped, but I think it still works as a standalone movie.
People like Zendaya as an actor.
I don't know.
She's like fine.
She's okay.
She's mid.
This is one of my favorite performances that she's given. I gotta say, this film was the first time that I really felt the romance between MJ and Peter in like this movie, this version of them.
There was like no like inkling of romance in Homecoming, and then all of a sudden, Far From Home, he's
not
like,
in
Homecoming,
Homecoming,
God, I fucking,
and then in
Far From Home, like, oh my god, bro.
Far From Home, the entire film, he's like, okay, I gotta tell her that I'm like literally like in love with her, like she has to know this. And then in this one, it's like they're straight up like they're like extremely like boyfriend and girlfriend, like close, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that happened. So that is that. I did really enjoy that. It led to some really good genuine moments. I think there were some good character moments, but I don't think all the characters were as well fleshed out, because this is a massive movie. There was a lot that they tried to fit in, and I think
was the lizard in this? Why?
Like looking back, the lizard
did absolutely nothing.
There was nothing.
There was not even a scene where like Andrew Garfield was like, "Oh
and
my god, man, I miss you."
He looked terrible. In my Letterboxd review, I pointed out that outside of the lizard, every villain, their design was either improved or unchanged because it was fine. But with the lizard, he looks terrible.
On a second rewatch, honestly, like it didn't look like better, but like I got used to it more and I was fine with it. But like it looked so weird. Also, his voice was different.
Yeah, it was all
really
actor. Weird. Yeah, I don't.
It's
really
like
know.
if you're not gonna bring it back completely, I get why they changed like Jimmy Fox like significantly. Because oh my god,
yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Even though they never really exactly explained it, I assumed it was because like different energy from a different universe or something.
Yeah, which it was nice to see the actual design reference more so to the original comic design, like with the thing around his head.
Yeah, that was actually, and didn't look stupid.
Yeah, it was actually a really cool detail to see that.
And like Doc Ock looked great.
Doc Ock is he was always my favorite villain when it came to like the live action Spider-Man films. Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite live action Spider-Man film. The only one I like better is Spider-Verse. And Doc Ock has always been like just that good of a villain. So it's really cool to see.
I was very worried about them bringing him in because I thought they would just like destroy his arc in the second movie, but they really didn't. He was really only a villain in one scene, and that was the whole bridge scene, which was really cool. It was really well done. It was very nostalgic too because it was like the first big hit of nostalgia. They say like this power of the sun in the palm of my hands like a few more times than probably needed.
Yeah,
but it's I like it. I like the Tobey.
It's like yes, we loved Spider-Man 2. We get it. And then like Green Goblin briefly shows up. Willem Dafoe gave an incredible performance.
He's still so good after 20 years.
Yeah,
him and Alfred Molina like perfectly stepped back into their roles.
Yeah,
20 years later.
It was amazing. And even though Alfred Molina was only in it for the money, he still did a great job.
He wasn't actually, but like,
I know.
Like, memeable, but...
I know. It was really good though. It was great to see them return to that. It was extremely nostalgic, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. We're big fans of the first two Spider-Man films.
Third one's pretty good.
The Raimi films.
Also, Sandman was in this.
Yeah, Sandman kind of. He was just like a CGI character pretty much the entire film.
It didn't make sense to me why he didn't turn to his human form because he seemed to be able to do that in Spider-Man 3 whenever he wanted.
Yeah, maybe because
he was like in a different reality, so he's like scared or whatever. But like they never like expressed that. He's just constantly sand.
Yeah, he's just.
And then at the end, like you don't really understand like why he's fighting Peter, except for the fact he wants to go home.
And Happy was like, I looked in the camera. Is that a mud monster?
And then he's like, is that like a dinosaur?
A dinosaur, a mud monster, a robot spy,
a black guy. You bring a black guy in my apartment.
But there was a lot of good humor. Man, there's so much stuff about this movie. This is a massive movie.
There's like that terrible joke where it's like, you want to drink Doc Ock? Okay, saltwater or freshwater? I was like, he's a fucking human. What are you talking about?
Because like you're an octopus. Like Marissa Tomei was pretty charming as Aunt May. I mean, she was fine.
She's fine. She was just never utilized well in these movies. She was always just like in Homecoming. She's like, oh my gosh, she's hot now. She's hot now. And Far From Home, she just wasn't in it. And then this one, she's like in it.
Yeah,
and then she has a forced line from the first film.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start getting into some of the major spoilers. So just a big warning for that. But we could talk about Aunt May. So yeah, major spoiler, but she does pass away. Major. She does. She does.
I thought they were gonna like say she lived, but she got hit like full force with that glider.
Yeah. Yeah. They finally did that. The with great power comes great responsibility, and then like later on when all three Spider-Men are talking about it, he's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, how do you know that? Uncle Ben said it. Then like Andrew was like, oh yeah, Uncle Ben said it. It's like, no, he didn't. I don't know if you remember, but in your movie,
it's got like a rehashed,
like stupid version. Jargon, like is like a reversion of that. But what really carries the movie is like the interactions between the three Spider-Man. It's really fan servicey, and it just kind of relies on that. But it's kind of a love letter to Spider-Man in these movies that has been built up for a long time. They serve
a point in the story beyond just fan service, because that's what I was worried about. There was going to be in like the final fight,
right? Yeah.
As a significant portion, there was a lot of serious scenes about him talking. It didn't have like a lot of jokes.
Right.
And it was great, that scene like where they first introduced Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. They had a huge audience reaction to that.
Yeah.
And all their little like character beats to each other during like the final fight and stuff was great. And Andrew Garfield like actually saving MJ was like a good moment.
It was really good to see that arc that actually carried over from
the arc that I thought would never happen. And then Tobey Maguire, he gave like a much more subdued performance compared to like Andrew and Tom, but I think it's just because that's how he was in the originals, and it's just, you never see him interact with other heroes. He does have that one moment where he's just like, how is this helping? And that's like really funny. And he's like, he's a boss baby. Yeah, he hasn't been in a film for like 8 years, and he like came back for this, and I think like boss baby.
Yeah. But he did come back.
He has that one interview with the boss baby. He's like, he's such an endearing character because he's like a boss, but he's like a baby.
I loved Toby. He was incredible, and Andrew was definitely. I liked him a lot better.
I almost cried when Toby showed up.
Yeah,
because it was so. Also, like, it was just they were so true to the characters. Like, it felt like they were directly from those movies. I haven't watched the Amazing ones in a while, so I don't know how the Amazing Spider-Man fans feel about the interpretation.
Well, I mean, they clearly really want a third installment now. So
they also want a Spider-Man 4. Apparently, the rumor is that they're gonna make more Andrew Garfield films. Like Sony's gonna make their own Andrew Garfield movies in like the also Venom universe with Morbius and all that, which I guess would make more sense. And then,
which I don't want to see any of that, honestly.
I'd be fine if like we got an Amazing Spider-Man 3 just so he at least like has a trilogy, if it's actually good. And then
if it could be better,
because like Andrew Garfield was really good at this. He actually almost stole the show because he actually really tried.
He really did, really good script. And it showed him with this better direction how good.
Like him and Electro actually had a dynamic, and they actually like had a, which is confusing to me because the rules of the spell. Because we haven't mentioned Doctor Strange, who's like in this film for a little bit, and like at the end, and like a huge middle portion, he's not there.
Yeah.
Which I was confused by that in the trailer. I was like, all these villains are showing up, but Doctor Strange literally like almost beat Thanos simply by like casting like butterflies. So like, what's gonna happen if like Green Goblin like throws a bomb at him? Like, so like they had to make a reason for him to leave.
And it was cool, like because originally they were gonna market it as a Spider-Man versus Doctor Strange movie or whatever, which wouldn't have worked at all. But like that is like a kind of like a little thing in this, and like Spider-Man.
That scene was pretty cool.
That was cool,
especially like when he puts him in his astral form, and like his Spidey sense still. That's very comics, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. A lot of just great Spider-Man moments. I think that was a lot of the best parts of the film. Just
in that scene between, there's so much scenes to talk about, and then the first Green Goblin versus Spider-Man scene in like the apartment was very good. They actually like made him more intimidating by getting rid of the mask, and it was a really good scene where he destroyed the mask because it made like plot sense. And even that scene where he mentions his son. I don't know. It's weird. Also, it's so weird. Like when Doc Ock was like mentioning like Norman Osborn, because like in the second film he's not mentioned at all. It's just weird. It's good to know that they all know each other. Right. It was kind of weird how Sandman knew exactly what happens to Norman Osborn and Doc Ock. So like, why would he care? He's in prison. And then he's just like, oh, he drowned. Oh, he died by his own glider. Even his son didn't know that until like the third movie.
Right. Yeah. Like, come on.
And then the Lizard's like, do I die, Max? And the Max just doesn't answer.
It's just like anyway
and there's some weird exposition, especially in that prison scene, because like the Lizard's like, Max, in the last movie you were in, you had weird teeth, a comb over, and you were blue. What happened? And he's just like, energy.
I'm Jamie Foxx, energy. I love the energy. And then like he and Sandman like talk to them, make fun of their origin stories, or whatever.
Which was actually funny because they're just making fun of how like poor the studios handle.
Yeah,
their scripts.
He was like, I fell into a
Sony film.
I fell into a vat of electric eels. He was like, oh, I fell into a super collider, and they were like,
gotta careful you fall.
Careful where you fall. Seeing all the villains together was really funny. And like I mean, seeing the Spider-Man together, I loved
like
it.
A scene where like. It was just weird because you're seeing like Electro and like a villain from like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 like interact with Willem Dafoe from Spider-Man 2002, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
I never thought this would happen. Like, even like I heard like the rumors, I was like, no way they're just gonna have like him saying he's a scientist again. Like, no way,
right?
No way home. And then I was like, and the thing is, like, I think a lot of the concerns was if it'd still be like an actual Spider-Man movie and not just a big reference movie. And I would say it was still a Spider-Man movie. And like,
yeah, I think they really did a good job with the Peter Parker arc.
It's also weird to say now that Tobey Maguire's been in 4 Spider-Man movies. I still haven't really processed that. I always thought it would just be 3. And he was actually in it significantly, like over half an hour.
Yeah, and he made a big difference in the plot too.
Especially the ending. Some people complain about like they wanted Andrew Garfield to stop the glider at the end, which doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah, it doesn't.
I really like that scene, and like when they stabbed him, like I didn't think they were gonna kill him. But that like freaked me out for a second. I was like,
yeah, I was like, don't tell me they're gonna kill Tony, bro. Like, come on, that just doesn't work. No,
you just brought him back after like 14 years. He's gonna kill him again. Yeah. And then like, yeah, and that's like, and like they'll hug at the end, which was, it was very meta in a way because it was like everybody argues over the last like 21 years about like who's the best Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And like at the end, they're just like, oh, we love each other, we're brothers. We all hug it out at the end. Bye. Hopefully, I see you again.
Yeah, which I like different aspects of all the different Spider-Men. So I definitely
because really apparently like, they're gonna continue with the Tom Holland films, and Tobey Maguire like hates being famous, so of course he decides to be Spider-Man. And then yeah, I don't think he wants to do like any other Spider-Man. Apparently, Marvel has a contract or something with them that like they could appear in like other crossovers down the road, like a Secret Wars or whatever, which would be cool if we saw him again. But if this is it, it was really great. This is like the ultimate payoff for being a Spider-Man fan.
Absolutely.
If you didn't see it opening weekend, you honestly miss out, which is Tommy. But every single fan in the theater, I don't think I've seen like one review that like genuinely like hates every aspect of this film. There's really any aspect that I genuinely hate.
There are issues to it. Like, yeah, it is kind of just purely fan service. I don't think the narrative suffers too much, but it is
the best live action Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it has issues. Like I think it's perfectly paced, but like not all the character. Like I feel like Ned was kind of funny, but like he
didn't really have any character, even in all 3 of the movies. At least, like...
in this one, he seemed to be relegated a lot more to just kind of, like, the background funny guy.
And he just, like, knows Doctor Strange magic. And, like, the whole Doctor Strange film, like, half the film, he's, like, struggling to, like, even, like, do basic magic stuff. He's like, yeah, I opened a portal to Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. And I gotta say, the visuals weren't that impressive most of the film. I expected, like, the CGI wasn't as good as I expected it to be.
I mean, the de-aging was good for, like, Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. That was good.
That was good.
And I thought, like... Electro's powers looked fine.
Yeah, and
Sandman's
then, like, I did notice
Sandman and the Lizard looked like I feel like it was like COVID restrictions or something because like they felt like such shafted.
Yeah, they really did compared to like what else was happening. I
did
see
some... have like Electro and like Doc Ock and Green Goblin. I feel like it would have still been like as good. Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see the Lizard and Sandman again, even if I don't love their characters. It's just like cool.
Right. And I gotta say, I did see a few green screens a couple of times, and I was like, okay, well,
I didn't really look too closely.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, it's just a thing that happens sometimes. And most of the comedy worked mainly with like the Spider-Man, but sometimes like it didn't seem like
the first half of the film. The comedy didn't really land at all.
Yeah,
there was that one good Doctor Strange joke where he's like, "You haven't called." You haven't called the college,
right?
And you told me to rather brainwash literally billions of people.
Yeah, and it was like,
but it's also weird because Doctor Strange is like he just like outright does a spell knowing how dangerous it is, just because Spider-Man said please, and then
yeah,
and then of course it's probably gonna make a lot more sense when
it's just weird because it seems like most of it could have been prevented. Like at that part where like he changes so that like MJ and Aunt May knew or whatever, it's just like okay, leave it at that.
Why isn't he happy to know so bad?
Yeah, like who cares?
And he's like, oh, everybody that knew Spider-Man needs to know.
I think at the very least, as long as your girlfriend knows, just move on. You're fine.
Like I feel like after his best friend and his girlfriend, it should be like okay, I'll just tell everybody else again.
Yeah. It's just whatever. It seems like
it's also funny because the same scene he references is like he's like she isn't dating just because you're Spider-Man. And he's like, I don't know, but please change your world altering spell just because I like it.
Since your world could like affect, is he going to affect?
And at the end of the film, he still chooses not to be with her anyway. So it's like okay.
Yeah, which we'll get into that ending in a bit. I think
the ending was actually probably the best Spider-Man ending.
Yeah, which we can definitely get into that.
Except for the fact that Uncharted comes out in like 2 months, so that kind of makes me not like Tom Holland.
we'll get it. I mean, yeah.
Also, did you know that Tom Holland was to take a break from acting to start a family, and he's like 24?
Yeah, he's all talking about like wanting to start a family, and he's not that
he's
old.
dating Zendaya for like a few months.
Yeah.
And Zendaya's like, what? I'm filming Dune 2.
I'm filming Dune 2. Like, hold on. Oh my gosh.
That movie was exciting.
But like those are just a few of the drawbacks. I didn't really feel like when to break the tension. And also the weird like MIT storyline.
They referenced Topher Grace's Venom, and then Tom Hardy's Venom's also.
Yeah, by the way, this is actually I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 because Tom Hardy's Venom is in it, and that was.
I heard that was the post credit scene because I got spoiled about the post credit scenes, and it made sense because like he was in the post credit scene of Venom 2. Reference No Way Home, so it only really made sense.
I still hated Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy
even
posted
in that
on
moment.
Instagram like a few months ago when like Venom 2 came out and he had a No Way Home hat. So it's like, okay, fuck you. And then it also makes no sense because like you bring him in just to leave his symbiote piece behind and then go back to his universe. So it's like, okay, is the next...
Okay, so now the symbiote is in the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe.
But
okay.
I hope they don't like have it talk. Like it does in the universe, because that's not what the symbiote does. The symbiote was so much better handled in Spider-Man 3, and that was an absolutely rushed rewrite.
Yeah,
and they had 2 movies.
And Eddie Brock wasn't very good, but at least the symbiote was like handled.
At least the story made sense. It was actually centered around Spider-Man. It made sense.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy Venom. Also, like I didn't love the scene, but it was kind of funny to see Tom Hardy like find out all these things about this universe.
Yeah, he was like, "What's up with the alien? Like aliens? No, that's not what aliens do. Aliens like to eat brains."
It was at least like funny and engaging, and like it would have been like an interesting dynamic. I
still hate the freaking Tom Hardy and Venom thing. I never liked it. Those first 2 movies, it was handled so poorly, and now it's just the dynamic now.
Nobody clapped when Tom Hardy showed up.
Yeah, no. Who cares?
I think people were more excited about the Doctor Strange trailer at the end, which was really good.
Which was amazing. The Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness looks absolutely fantastic, and I love using the trailer, putting that as the end credit scene.
Well, it also makes sense because it's a Spider-Man movie and it's a Sam Raimi film.
Right. Yeah.
And Sam Raimi had some involvement with this, like a character.
Which that was really cool. The MIT storyline, like how it was like
college.
How it was quickly like, these are my 2 backup schools. Oh, it failed. Now MIT. Oh, it failed. And then like Flash Thompson's like, no sleep till Boston. I made it.
Flash was such a weird character in the show.
He
wasn't really a bully.
Yeah.
He had the one funny joke at Homecoming calling him like Penis Parker, and that was like the peak of his character. And that was 30 minutes in the first film of 3 2.5 hour movies. And then, I mean, he was also not in it at all. He's like, oh, I made a book. Oh, here's what this lady is. Also, the lady, like, he does one heroic thing, and she's like, okay, I'll reconsider everything. Even though, like, 2 years ago, or like a year ago, he like helped save like the actual universe. It's an actual alien with like actual like, world-altering stuff.
Yeah. And
actually, it was like friends with Iron Man. And,
but now we view you as a hero.
He stopped the Vulture. He stopped Mysterio, which I know. I think just because of one very, very sounding edited video. Also, J. Jonah Jameson was like great in this, even though he wasn't the same. Also, Allie didn't know that was from the Raimi films because when we watched the first one, he showed up and she's like, "Oh, he's in this." And I was like, "Yeah, that's why he's in the new ones because he was so good in this." And she's like, "Oh." I was like, "You didn't know this?"
What?
Everybody cheered at Far From Home at the end because that was in. And then
yeah, because J.K. Simmons was back.
Because like they were gonna bring him back. They were gonna bring that character back in the Amazing films, but they couldn't find a good replacement. And they were gonna bring him into the beginning of the Holland films, but they couldn't find a good replacement. So they just said halfway through, let's just bring him back.
And then they realized there is no replacement because he did it so well. Yeah.
And then they're just like, okay, let's just bring back Willem Dafoe. And
Willem Dafoe was amazing. We talked about that briefly earlier, but he did a great job.
The scenes. The only like complaint that I can understand, like genuinely, is it's kind of weird how like they just make cures for the villains in like 20 minutes and then go into the final act.
Yeah.
Even like I like the line where Toby's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make the cure for Osborn because I've been thinking about it a long time." Like that's cool.
Yeah.
And like I love this scene with Otto and Toby at the end when like they have that interaction and they call back to their first conversation where he's like, "I'm trying to do better." And he's like, "It's so good to see you." It feels like a direct talking to the audience.
Yeah.
And I never really thought I would see that again. I was really hoping for, because I kind of figured Doc Ock would be the first villain they would like change back, and it was cool that they like fixed the chip. And it was like very directly. And
it was great to see the like a really completion of that character arc, and because he never truly was a villain. He was just corrupted.
The only weird thing is with like Loki and all the timeline meddling, they say like if one change happens, it like causes like a multiverse branch and like it needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
So when these villains go back and they're different now, that's going to cause a branch.
So unless it was supposed to happen and then be changed.
Yeah, it's just weird all the time. Also, the TVA is like kind of like destroyed now, so comics, whatever.
Who knows? I have no idea what's going on really in the timeline and how that has to do with the movies yet.
And there's some of the villains where it's like, okay, so if the lizard goes back normal now, that's going to change the whole timeline of that universe. So is it going to change the Amazing Spider-Man 2? And if you change Willem Dafoe at the end of the first film, is it going to change the trilogy? Also, what was the point of fixing Sandman? He was a bad guy in the first place. And then...
yeah.
He just wanted to see his daughter.
And then also, like when he showed up, he was like, I'm not your Peter, I'm just some other guy. He's like, what? I don't know, just help me, like, beat this guy really quick. He's like, okay. I'll help you just to beat this, like, electric person. That was really weird. There was some really cliched moments, some rushed story beats, and some other, like, weird, like, offhand issues like that. But...
overall, I love this movie.
From, like, a fanboy standpoint, I really did love it.
As an actual movie, I think it's pretty decent, too. I thought this movie was going to be a lot more, like, bad than it was.
Well, yeah, because I thought it was going to be more like Far From Home. Where Far From Home, I gave it, like, a 6 out of 10. It was, like, fine. But I really enjoyed it.
A lot of people hate that movie.
Yeah, it's weird.
And, like, it's not bad.
It's not
Some
bad.
people also love it and say, like, Mysterio is their favorite part about it. And Mysterio was, like, really well handled in that movie as, like, a new interpretation of the character.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, like, my favorite villain. I like the Vulture much more. Which is weird, because this movie now drops that whole interesting storyline about the Vulture knowing his identity and, like, the Scorpion.
Yeah.
That, like, was, like, completely dropped.
Right.
So I don't know where that's going now. Also, the Vulture's in Morbius.
Yeah.
And if the Vulture, and if for some reason Morbius is in the Amazing Spider-Verse, why is the Vulture in it? And then it's just like, whatever. I don't care.
It's all really weird stuff.
Tyrese is in Morbius. Officially.
But
this officially makes, like, Willem Dafoe one of the best MCU villains now.
Yes, for sure. He was incredible.
The way he switches between the two, like, personalities, I forgot how well he does it, because he does it so well.
He does do it amazingly.
And he's so much more menacing about the mask.
Yeah, he really
He's almost
is.
better than he was in 2002.
He can make his face contort, like, crazily.
And, like, the way he, like, fucks with Peter mentally, all the lines he has were so good.
Yeah.
And him killing Aunt May, like, made him, like, the definitive, like, arch nemesis of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because, like, really, in the first film, he didn't, like, do anything that really, like, impacted Peter for the rest of his life, besides make his son kind of want to kill him.
Yeah.
But, you know, he didn't, like, kill Aunt May. He wasn't really involved with anything. I mean, he was just kind of the villain of the first movie. And this one, they much more established him as, like, a real threat to, like, everything Peter holds dear to him.
Right. And I gotta say, the Peter and MJ moments really got to me, especially toward the end. I really felt the romance.
And it's because they're probably together in real life, so they have actual chemistry now.
Well, yeah, their chemistry definitely worked a lot on screen.
And did you hear that Sony, when, like, they found out they were dating, they, like, tried to convince them to break up?
Really?
Because they said it wouldn't go well, because, like, it didn't go well with, like, the past. Because, like, every single Spider-Man and their love interest in the live-action films has dated at one point.
Yeah.
They all broke up. But, like,
yeah.
So I guess Sony's like, oh, it happened 2 times, so you 2 completely different people from those people don't date. 2 Dwarf movies. Then it's like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah,
I can just quit, okay? I'm literally Tom Holland. Also, Tom Holland's, like, being really weird about the role. He, like, wants to take a break. He wants to take a break. He wants to do next trilogy. He's also like, we should do Miles Morales and Spider-Woman next. And it's like, okay, let's, like, do a Spider-Man Peter Parker really story. Weird.
Yeah.
So it feels natural. Can't just do Into the Spider-Verse now.
Yeah.
Which this film feels like a direct response from Sony, because Into the Spider-Verse did so well. They're like, so let's do that multiverse movie now.
Multiverse.
Which I know that's what Marvel wants to do now anyway, because, like, Loki very much set it up for that, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is going to be dealing with that a lot. Especially with that trailer with, like, the evil Doctor Strange. That's interesting. I'm really excited to see that, because Sam Raimi hasn't done a superhero movie in, like, 15 years. I don't think he's done a movie in, like, 10 years. So,
I think his last movie was Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in, like, what specifically about this film made him want to direct it. Obviously, it's going to be apparently more horror-focused, which I don't know what that means.
I don't care.
Because they also said the Homecoming trilogy is going to be, like, very much focused on high school, and I think the first movie was, and the second movie was not, and this one definitely was not. So the next one's, like, a college trilogy. It's like, okay.
Well, the second one was, like, a high school trip, and he went back to high school in this one.
Yeah, he said he was, like, a senior year. So I'm confused. Did he graduate high school, or is he still in high school? Get a GAD thing, which is, like, when you don't pass high school.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because unless they knew they were still, like, applying to the whole MIT thing or whatever. But I don't know what... I don't know any of that.
I'm guessing it's assuming he's going to get into MIT. So I'm assuming he's going to, and, like, his best friend going to be the next one, and they're going to try to, like, restart that relationship. Unless they just throw the Gwen storyline. And then... No.
Which, yeah, all of that stuff...
Also, where's Uncle Ben? Tom Holland does not mention him once. Does he just not exist?
Yeah, they were like the other two were just like, oh yeah, Uncle Ben, and then he was like, okay, just kept listening, like, okay. And like,
because in Far From Home, he had an Uncle Ben like suitcase,
right?
And like there was a deleted scene from Homecoming where they directly reference him. So he's definitely there. There was a rumor that there was a theory that I liked where it was like he died in the battle in New York in the first Avengers. Like, okay, maybe that would work, but then they never did anything with it.
Right. Yeah.
They also retconned in Iron Man 2 that the random kid of Iron Man mask was actually Tom Holland.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually.
No.
Huh?
It's a lot of weird. There were a lot of weird things like that.
Honestly, this was like so much worse than Halloween Kills. Like, oh my god, bro, 40 years ago.
Shut up. So, like, here's the thing. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. One of my favorite superheroes. He's one of my favorite superheroes. Always has been. Like it's not one of the ones that like I usually talk about because I usually for some reason I have a mental thing where I like go against the norm, and Spider-Man is just so popular, but I just can't deny that he's one of my favorites because he's so well handled, especially in these movies. In like certain ways, I kind of do like love all these movies in my heart, every single one, even the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that movie's terrible.
I haven't rewatched it. I kind of want to.
I want to rewatch the Andrew Garfield ones because it's been a while. But this movie, I watched it. I saw it in the theater. I shed a tear. I laughed so much. I enjoyed it. My heart wants to give it like a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. That's how much I loved it.
As a fan, as I walked out of that theater, I was really in love with it.
Yes, I loved it so much.
Even as a fan service thing, even just as like a Tom Holland Spider-Man film, it was very well done. And I enjoyed it like start to finish. There wasn't really a point where like I was like bored. I mean, some of the early stuff was kind of like, but
right. I mean, as it sits,
the whole like dilemma from Far From Home presented, it was kind of resolved because they just brought Daredevil in, and like he just says, "I'm a really good lawyer." Catches brick. I'm a really good lawyer. It's like, okay, we get it. You're blind. We get it. You're funny. And then like
all the Daredevil stuff. I mean, it was cool. It was a cool cameo. It just kind of didn't really seem necessary. I don't know what they're
gonna do from next though, because apparently he's gonna be in like the She-Hulk show. Like he was gonna watch that, and then like
what's this? Well, then I didn't think anyone would really care about Hawkeye, and it's turned out to be one of the best.
I've been keeping up with it just because I want to like keep the day with the timeline because it's coming to a certain point where you're gonna have to because they're gonna like have Kate Bishop in like movies now.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, you're not gonna know her character if you know it's Hawkeye show.
I mean, Haley Steinfeld is great.
She was actually really good. It'd be really great to like see.
She's always great, which is weird because she's also a part of the Spider-Verse series now.
She's also in Bumblebee.
And was also in Bumblebee. I don't know why that matters, but yeah, she's also in The Edge of 17. Let's just list all of her movies.
It's not a really good movie.
It's pretty good.
I wanted to check it out when I first saw it, but like people probably.
It is actually a really good coming of age story.
Woody Harrelson, who's Carnage by the way.
He is Carnage.
I
can't wait for Let There Be Carnage 2 coming out in the same month as Venom 3.
I'm so confused, bro. There's a Venom 3, but it's like, what's that going to be about? You can't just do Toxin because it's just another fucking symbiote versus symbiote movie, and I'm going to fucking kill myself.
Well, neither of the two films are original or interesting enough to like expand upon anyway, so I can't wait for the third one. Cash grab. Yay. No, please, no. If they do 4 of those, but they didn't do 4 Raimi Spider-Man films, I'm going to freak out.
There was a fan thing that I kind of liked where they said they want like just give Raimi full control for like one more Spider-Man movie, and it's just like an old man Maguire story, like Logan style.
That would be. That'd be
really good. I don't know if that's Raimi's style.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see another Maguire standalone Spider-Man film, but I don't know how they could really make it work.
I rewatched that trilogy recently, and honestly, it just at this point now, like I've kind of come to terms with Spider-Man 3 and how it's not perfect, and it never will be. But and neither of the first 2 films, like there's always gonna be some minor problems, but like it's pretty much a flawless trilogy, just like as like a storyline. So I honestly feel like Spider-Man 4 would have been like overkill. Because, like, what more could you have done? Just another villain and then save Mary Jane at the end.
Yeah, it's just kind of rehashing.
Because apparently one of the rumors of, like, what the script was was, like, apparently he was going to, like, cheat on Mary Jane with, like, Black Cat. And I was like, I don't want to see that. He was already an asshole to her in the 3rd movie. Now he's going to cheat on his wife? What? And the fucking... Who was going to play Vulture in the movie? Fucking...
I don't remember.
It was some guy that gets angry a lot.
Oh. I don't know.
And Bruce Campbell is Mysterio, which would have been funny.
That would have been crazy, but I don't know how my brain could have handled that, but would have been cool to see though.
Also, like Amazing Spider-Man 3, like of course, this made me a lot more.
Well, it'd be kind of cool to see just so that all 3 of them have a trilogy.
Yeah, it would be, but also like it's been so long, and like
it's not really relevant anymore.
And like, what would it be like 10 years later? Because like No Way Home like kind of tells us what he's been doing in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
and he has like the same Spider-Man suit. Like, exactly. So does, like, Maguire. And in this film, Tom Holland is, like, 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has, like, one scene where he has that black suit, which is, like, cool. It's kind of weird because it's like an inside-out suit, and like I don't know exactly how that functions, but like it was cool for like the scene it was in, but like it never happened again. I thought in the trailer, I thought it was gonna be something like a specific like electro suit, like to counteract electricity or whatever. But it was just because his main suit was green.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
And also, I like because Doc Ock takes the nanotech at that one point, which was cool because it made sense because they referenced in the first two Raimi films like nanotechnology is mentioned like twice by both of them.
Yeah.
And it was cool that like it melded with the arms, but like it didn't do. It just like slightly turned red, and then like he took control of the arms, which made sense, but it was kind of nerfing the character. It kind of felt weird at first because like Doc Ock was such a threat in that scene, and then immediately he was just like.
It did really seem weird.
Autopilot. And then
also, did they ever explain when Doctor Strange was like basically knocked him out of his physical form, but he still was able to keep like the boss form? Yeah.
I'm assuming it was a spider sense.
I assume so. Yeah.
Like his body still reacts because he's superhuman, and also he was able to like go back into his body really fast. Like Hulk couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess that was the ancient one or whatever. And also, like, I guess Doctor Strange isn't the Sorcerer Supreme anymore.
Yeah, I guess they gave it to Wong because
the 5 years.
Because Doctor Strange blipped. Yeah, so
which I guess makes sense.
Which is
like,
fine, but
they don't mention that in like Shang-Chi.
Yeah, it feels like more of like a comedic bit, like.
So was he just not the Sorcerer Supreme in the next one?
I mean, Doctor Strange definitely should be. It's not like Wong. Based on what they've established.
Wong's been in the last like 5 Marvel movies. It's weird.
Yeah, he's become such a popular character now. I don't even know what.
Also, the actor's name is Benedict Wong. His last name is the character name.
Yeah.
Tom Spider-Man. Tom Peter.
Tom Peter.
Is that Toby Peter? Also, like, it's funny they did the Spider-Man pointing meme like twice.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I'm Peter. We're all Peter. We're all."
Like I thought that I was Peter too. No, you're Peter 3.
There's that good scene where he's like, "Guys, actually, I've been in the team. I'm a part of the Avengers."
Is it
that's
just
great?
Oh yeah.
What is that?
Like that's great. What is that? Is that a band? Are you in a band? that was really funny.
Because like
I guess you guys don't. He's like, you guys don't have the
superheroes in those universes.
Yeah, like you guys don't have the Avengers in your universe. So like, no.
The thing is though, in Spider-Man 2, they mentioned Doctor Strange by name.
They did.
In Raimi Spider-Man 2?
Stephen Strange?
I say Doctor Strange because, like, I don't know, I didn't know you didn't know that, but, like, the scene, like, when they named Doc Ock at the Daily Bugle, like, they're throwing out names, and the guy's like, Doctor Strange, and then J. Jonah's like, that's great, but it's taken.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which is probably just a nod, but it's kind of like, is Doctor Strange canon? And then...
Well, yeah, he said that's taken. Maybe... I don't know. That's weird.
At the end of this film, they show, like, a bunch of different villains in, like, the Rift, and like you see Rhino and like Kraven.
Yeah. You see like when they were doing that Rift and they like showed like all of those different like Spider-Man villains. It was really interesting to see some of those silhouettes. I bet there was a lot of Easter eggs that I probably didn't catch. They showed the Rhino though, which like I don't really want the Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2 to be canon. Like if Paul Giamatti was just like, "Oh hey, I'm Paul Giamatti." That'd have been a little weird. He was good in Billions. Yeah, he's in Billions, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's one of those movies that like my heart wants to give it a much higher rating, like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. There were some objective flaws, but it was extremely enjoyable, and Spider-Man fans should and will love it. The hype, I think, was definitely deserved. I was gonna ask you before I saw your review of Spider-Man 3 a question, but now I've read your review of Spider-Man 3.
What's the question?
Well, it was gonna be, do you prefer this trilogy to the Raimi trilogy as a trilogy?
I prefer the Raimi trilogy.
Because as an entire trilogy, I prefer this one because I think Spider-Man 3 is a strong weak point, but I don't think this one has a weak point.
Quality.
Like
quality, like each
quality and consistency of quality, not as an arc.
I think I just prefer the Raimi films because like Spider-Man 2 just beats all 3 of these movies, and even Spider-Man 1 maybe.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man 2 is just so good.
And Spider-Man 3 has like flaws, but like I still think it's mostly decent. I think it has more strong points than it does bad. It still has bad stuff though, like Venom.
I think Spider-Man 3 is awful.
I don't know if I'd say it's awful. I mean, there's worse. Like
yeah, there's worse, but it doesn't make it not awful.
At least I'm not like Tom.
They completely destroyed Peter in that film. It was terrible.
Spider-Man Duology.
The Amazing Spider-Man Duology.
They have like box sets of like each, like the Raimi and Mark Webb films, and like it's like the Spider-Man trilogy, and it's like the Amazing Spider-Man Duology. The Tom Holland sexology.
Oh my gosh! I think as far as like
Tom Holland definitely like people are saying he's like the best Spider-Man now because of this movie, and like I wouldn't say that.
I think Toby will always be my favorite.
He really this is his best performance as Spider-Man, especially the emotional scenes are really well done. Like Aunt May's death scene was very well acted by both of them.
I mean, that final first thing, there was a lot of
that final fight with Goblin was really good too.
There was a lot of wrestling moves in this movie, which I thought was kind of funny. But like that final fight with Goblin, I could really feel his emotion in every punch. They really put a lot into that.
And Dafoe's acting that scene was excellent.
It was fantastic.
Also, did you hear he said he wanted to come back because he liked the script or whatever, but he said he'd only come back if they let him do his action scenes himself. So every single action scene was a 66-year-old man doing it. Yeah, he did all of his action scenes.
Which is really cool and respectable. Glad to see that he didn't sustain any major injuries.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he had that much action because I feel like some of the bigger action stuff was CGI.
Yeah,
him flying around and shit. And the CGI, the aging was very well done.
Yeah.
Because the first scene of Willem Dafoe, he looks exactly from 2002, maybe even younger. I was like, isn't he 60?
Yeah, he's an old man.
Yeah, and there's that one funny moment. It wasn't super funny, but it was a good reference because when Doctor Strange shows up at the end, he's like, "I've been over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours," and it was a reference to Loki and Thor Ragnarok, where he's like, "I've been falling for 30 minutes."
Yeah.
And it was just a funny little reference, and they honestly don't reference the Avengers a lot in this movie because Far From Home was so focused on Iron Man and his legacy. I don't think he was mentioned once by Spider-Man, except Happy mentioned him at the end, which was a really good moment because he's like, "Yeah, I lost a friend too recently, and it never gets any easier."
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "How'd you know her?" It's weird that now nobody knows who Spider-Man is. Yeah,
I'm actually really interested to see how they continue.
They took it to they finally answered how he's too much focused in the MCU and Iron Man Jr. because they referenced that in the film directly.
Yeah.
And now he's literally on his own. He has his own suits, he has a little shitty apartment Toby did.
Yeah.
It actually looks almost identical.
I'll give you your rent when you fix this damn door.
I honestly hope that is his landlord and just recast him.
That'd be awesome.
Because in the Raimi films, it's gonna be real that guy, the red guy, was Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. I don't know if I would have liked that.
I don't know. There's so many little villains that they were trying to incorporate throughout the Raimi films. It's they were trying
to understand why Raimi said no. He almost didn't direct Doctor Strange 2 because of the backlash just from Spider-Man 3 14 years ago because it was so severe to his mental health, which is terrible.
Right.
Because in the end, it wasn't really his fault entirely.
I don't blame Raimi for that awful film.
I mean, of course, he did direct it and make it, but there was a lot of out forces, mainly Sony, and the terrible producers, which they credit the producer at the end, the Avi Arad guy.
Yeah.
Which, sure, he's contributed a lot to this franchise, producing, but he is the reason why every single iteration has failed completely, and he's the sole reason there are 2 Venom films and a Morbius film well underway.
Yeah.
And probably Morbius 2 in 2024.
Don't talk about a Morbius 2, please.
Because it's probably going to happen. Let's be honest here. There's going to be more Morbius films than Tobey Maguire films.
I would be so upset.
Also, Tom Holland said he wants to fight Morbius in the future, and it's dude, stop talking. And then
I gotta say, you talked about referencing the Avengers or whatever, and it was cool to see at the. I mean, I thought that whole MIT storyline was kind of the getting into college thing, expect disappointment. It was all a little cliche, as teenage stories, whatever. But the thing with Spider-Man is that he's always been a local, homegrown superhero with
down on his luck.
Yeah,
and with the Iron Man help and stuff with the Iron Spider suit, which is kind of finally destroyed in this fucking movie.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see Peter Parker as a part of the Avengers, but his whole thing was that he was more local and smaller issues, just things happening on in New York, and he just wants to protect people, And
he does contribute in multiverse or galactic threats.
Bigger things. But
it's so weird that scene where he's I actually fought an alien on Earth and in space, and then Andrew Garfield's I fought a rhino.
Right.
It's weird because this Spider-Man just had his trilogy and he's already done a lot.
Yeah.
More than just help people because Homecoming was very down to earth because the Vulture was literally just stealing stuff to fund his daughter's future, and he's no, and then
right, yeah.
Far From Home was a little bit bigger, but it was still focused. Except he was in London, which was a nice break of pace, but it's just I'm so used to Spidey in New York, and this film is in New York, so we're good. And then,
which like the same thing like with like what's like what they're doing against like the villains themselves in New York is kind of just a New York thing until it becomes more of an issue, like multiverse issue.
And I do like how they prove that Tobey is like a more powerful Spider-Man because in like his first interactions, he absolutely gets fucking defeated by Doc Ock and Goblin.
Yeah,
like so easily.
Yeah,
he sucks. And they have some Raimi shots too, like the weird like zoom in on the face.
Right.
Like 2 times I noticed. There was that one cool scene in the apartment where like his Spidey sense is tingling, but he doesn't know why, so he's like stumbling around.
Right.
And it's because of Green Goblin.
That was a really good moment. Like everyone.
Which they have that good scene like in the feast or the homeless shelter with like actual Norman, and like I kind of forgot until like I rewatched Spider-Man and also in this movie. I forgot that like Green Goblin was like an altered personality and like Norman wasn't like really a bad guy.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I mean, he might have been kind of an asshole, like a rich guy, but like he did like care. He just was kind of an asshole.
Right.
And like in this one, it really shows that like, he really doesn't want to be this way. And it's the same with Doc Ock. I mean, the arms control him, and then like they fix the chip, and he's so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And he has a hero moment at the end, which was surprisingly really satisfying. Like where like he cures Electro. I never thought I would see Andrew Garfield get choked by Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. Like
that's insane, actually. Just thinking about all of this like crossover like stuff.
It was really good. I thought it was gonna be really poorly done and really fan servicey. And apparently a lot of the big reshoots they're doing right now for Doctor Strange 2 is to add more stuff like this, like big cameos and like go more out there, which is cool.
I think fan service it often hurts.
This is like satisfying fan service,
but I think this was satisfying, and I don't think
it was story.
I don't think the narrative suffered too much, and always calling back to Spider-Man 2 because of how good of a superhero movie it is. Like a big emphasis of that movie is that it's hard to be Spider-Man and the emotional, physical.
This one goes through that.
It takes, and it plays into that one a lot here, and it was really nice to see that. I still think the arc was a lot better in the first 2 Raimi films, but it was nice to see it here, and I think Holland really exercised it really well in his performance. I loved his romance with MJ. I think it was really well done.
That's kind of weird how in the scene they were talking like the love interest, and like I like that Tobey's like directed like they kind of answer the question if he's still with MJ. He's like, yeah, we make it work, but like, they never say what. I like that they keep that little under wraps. But then Andrew Garfield just never has an MJ. He's like, yeah, to Gwen.
He's like, Gwen, who is my MJ? It's like, you mean your significant other? Your girl? Just say your girl. What do you mean?
And like Gwen, like MJ was, and they made this Spider-Man 2, but they cut her out.
Yeah. And
she was going to be in the 3rd one, so it's like, okay. It's assumed that MJ is always going to be the main lover, so it's just assumed that Andrew Garfield hasn't found his MJ yet, and
that's why we need to make
Tom Holland lost his.
We need it, or just bring him back in Venom 4.
If there's any way they can make the Venom movies better, is to just first off not make them. But if you're gonna have Andrew Garfield in it, at least it'd be a little more watchable if you give him a little bit better script, just a little.
They're not gonna be a good script if they ever do.
If they're Sony produced, they're Sony made. Sony needs to realize that this was made by Marvel, and they're making fun of Sony in this movie like heavily. And I don't think Marvel likes working with Sony one bit. Which I wouldn't either, because they're fucking insane.
They suck.
I think the main like chief is like on crack like every day. Which is like Morbius 2, Venom 4 in early development, 17 more trilogies with Tom Holland. I don't care if he says no. And then
I don't care if
Andrew Garfield's getting 3 more Spider-Man films next year. 3 more animated films, all differently universes. And it's like, okay, you get the PS5 game though. And it's like, can I get one consistency, please? You ruined two good actors' storylines, and you made Tom Hardy do that awful lobster scene of Venom. Please stop. Tom Hardy's an Oscar-winning actor.
Tom Hardy is a good Oscar-winning actor. Yes,
he's a good actor, and you make him go like, "No, eat brain.
no, eat brain. Eat chicken brain, not human brain."
And you make him sweat profusely.
Aliens eat brains. They're not purple.
Okay, you fought a fucking red alien.
Oh my gosh, it's just. Yeah, I do think there were objective issues.
Tom Hardy was in the same film as Tobey Maguire.
I really enjoyed this movie, though. And it had some drawbacks.
I mean, nobody cheered. Nobody seemed excited, because even though I wasn't excited for that, they completely fucking negated what they set up. Because in that Venom post-credit scene, it was at least teased that we would get a Venom versus Spider-Man film down the line. And then in the next film, the next, like, 2 months later, They say nah.
Yeah.
Also, the spell doesn't make sense because by that logic, because they say the only ones that were brought in were people that knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
That's what I was gonna say.
Venom didn't know who Peter Parker was. Little did he know that Spider-Man was. Even if you throw in the dumb retcon where it's like, oh, the symbiotes remember past alternate universes, so remember Spider-Man 3.
Okay, who cares?
Who cares? And then, if that's the case, why wasn't Topher Grace's Venom brought in?
Yeah.
And then it was like, why wasn't Harry Osborn brought in? Like, I guess I can excuse it because Jim Carrey was like a pedophile or whatever. But like, they also didn't bring in Rhino. And then like, how did Electro know? Because I don't remember him ever knowing that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Because he says at the end, he's like, I just thought you were black.
Yeah, like that didn't make any sense unless he just knew by name that it was Peter. I don't know.
I'm assuming the Green Goblin in that film told him, and he just didn't know what he looked like. But like,
that was a good
character moment because they had that scene where like he talked to Electro and Toby had that scene where he talked to Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Just fuck the Lizard and Sandman. He does have that moment with Sandman that was pretty nice where he's like, just calm down, we're gonna get you home. And then they have stock footage from Spider-Man 3. And then
there was also that cool little nod to Miles Morales because like I know there's a black Spider-Man out there somewhere and it's like, okay, well, Miles Morales. So.
Actually, there was a film.
There's actually a movie that has a sequel coming out too.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx was actually surprisingly good in this.
He felt a lot more like Jamie Foxx.
He was really
he was much more happier to do the role.
If you watch like the interviews, he's just really happy he's not wearing like terrible makeup.
Yeah.
And like actually has a script to work with. And I don't know if the guy that played Lizard came back because he's credited, I think. But like I don't think that was his voice, and they did not use his human form.
Yeah.
And yeah. But really, this film isn't perfect. I think I gave it like a 4. It's probably more like a 3.5. But like, it's.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5, and that's just like an extremely objective standpoint because I really did enjoy it, and I kind of want to bump it up to a 4 just because me personally, I enjoyed it so much. Like a lot of the character arcs.
It's just
beats,
that
they struck a chord
that
with me
second
as a
half.
Spider-Man fan.
That second half, just the dynamic between Holland, Maguire, and Garfield was so.
It was
great.
So charming.
That one scene where they're swinging together and like they're swinging off each other and they land on like on the Statue of Liberty all together. That's wallpaper. I want that poster. But like,
yes.
they made me love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I never hated him, but I never really particularly cared if I saw him again.
Right. I was just like whatever. And in this one,
the
direction and script was so much better.
And it reminded me just how much I love Maguire as Spider-Man. And he was so well handled.
It was great to see. He was like the father Spider-Man, like the old man Spider-Man.
He wasn't even that old. He's like in his 40s.
Tobey Maguire.
I know, like the character. Apparently, like it was confirmed that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's like 40 in this universe.
40.
But like I think in real life he's like almost 50.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like. He should be in his.
Because he doesn't look that old. He definitely.
He's 46.
He looks older, but like he doesn't look that old that he couldn't like do another Spider-Man movie if he wanted to.
I mean, he definitely could still do it, and like, the moment when they all went to go swing like in unison, that was amazing.
That was great because like they swung off each other, and then
let's work as a team,
and even like I didn't get like goosebumps, but like it was a really well seen. Like when Andrew Garfield first sees like Max again, like Electro, and he's like, "Oh, what's up, Max?"
Yeah,
like that was good. And then there's that one scene where he webs up Lizard, which I think is a reference to Amazing Spider-Man. They also have a classroom scene again to Lizard.
Yeah,
which was a reference, I guess.
Sure.
Nicole's in here? Why is Nicole in my house? Yeah, and you're gay. They also have the reference where he talks about his back.
Yeah.
Which was funny. Because there was a funny little scene where, like, Andrew Garfield says he's dumb, and he's like, Tobey Maguire's like, no, you're amazing. Yeah. You're amazing, say it. And he's like, that's the name of my film.
Yeah, he was like, yeah.
That seems like a direct response.
Let's back up. You were not lame.
That sounds like it. That's literally like Tobey Maguire saying, "Hey, stop calling him lame. He's cool." And
the thing with the webs, with how like he could.
That was so good.
Shoot the webs.
He's like, how does that come out of you? And like, if you watch that scene again, like while the scene's still on, Andrew Garfield is like such a good actor. He like just keeps staring at his wrist, like, what the fuck. And then
yeah, like that's awesome. And then like he was like, it's like
he's like, I have to like
do it. It's like you don't do breathing. Like it just happens.
Shazam. And then I still call my house. I'm losing my train of thought. I'll see this movie again. I mean, I'll definitely buy it. Honestly, I'll probably buy a Steelbook, full cap. Yeah, especially if it has like all 3 of the logos on it. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, yes.
If it's like actually a good Steelbook and not like the Sony posters, I'm gonna change that.
Yeah, you've just left it in.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. This is passionate, like, Spider-Man discussion. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I love these movies, and it's great to see such a good Spider-Man movie. I would probably say it's my third favorite one after Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2.
I mean, it's closely... I think my ranking goes, like, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and then Far From Home, and then this. So the worst of each of them. I hate you so much. The Spider-Verse is probably, like, after the first Venom.
Alright, I'm leaving.
I'm kidding. It's above Venom 2. It's above Venom 2.
Okay. Okay.
Are people going to include Morbius in their Spider-Man rankings because it's part of a Spider-Man universe?
I don't know.
I'm not. That film's so confusing. Like, they had a little, like, I don't know if you remember, but they had, like, a little prelude, like, in the ads, and they were talking about Morbius. So, like, guys, we're so confused whichever this takes place in. They have Oscar from Amazing Spider-Man. They have Venom references. They have Tobey's, like, portrait on, like, a wall. They have, like, Tom Holland's Vulture in this. They have, like, literally Venom. They have literally, like, Amazing Spider-Man.
I am Venom. Just kidding. It's more worse. That was so stupid. That made the trailer even worse.
Also, there was a rumor that Emma Stone and, like the love interests from Amazing Spider-Man and like Tobey Maguire films were going to be in this, but like because of COVID, they didn't end up coming.
I don't know. I mean,
that could have happened, but like true, it would have made sense because I guess they knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. But it's also weird that they brought in like Spider-Man, like that were literally Peter Parker. Like, of course they're gonna know they're Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Also, why was Andrew Garfield just in a random alleyway, just chilling?
Yeah, they never explained that.
And then, like, Toby's, like, just in his street clothes, like, on a roof. And he's like, oh, I just came through this... And it's got...
Yeah.
It's a fucking portal thing, right? And he's like, there's magic here, too? It's like, yeah. You're made by Sony. You don't have anything. You literally just have Spider-Man villains. That's it. You don't have anything else. You're literally worthless. Like, I fucking hate you. Andrew Garfield was pretty good.
Yeah, Toby and Andrew were amazing, and Tom Holland, I think he's done a good job.
This is such... I never thought that I would get actual, like, payoff to, like, sticking with the series for so long. And, like, through all through all the Sony stuff, like, this film's, like, required to watch, like, at least the original trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man, and then the Holland films as well, just to, like, really... like get everything
to really be immersed in it.
Because like the scene where like the scene where like where Willem Dafoe, like, you know, Oscorp's gone in my son, like that scene hits so much harder when you actually see the Raimi films, and then like the Electro and like Andrew scenes work so much better if you've at least seen his films, and like seeing Gwen's death makes him talk about Gwen and that saving MJ at the end so much more meaningful. It's almost required, and even in a way, I don't like saying this, but it also makes the two Venom films almost required just to understand the post-credit scene anyway. At all.
Don't say that. We could have just not had that.
Yeah. And then I guess Into the Spider-Verse, just watch it anyway. And then and then
I know you didn't like Into the Spider-Verse, but look,
I gave it like a 4.5. I didn't give it a 5 because I haven't rewatched it.
True. It's amazing, by the way. It's still the best Spider-Man movie. But this one, it's in my top 3 personally, maybe even like objectively, because it's really good.
Out of the theater, it's probably my favorite Spider-Man film, but like thinking about it and like having seen it at least like a second time, it's probably like second or third. It's up there. It's the best of the Holland films. It's the best since Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And it's definitely better than the first like Spider-Man 2002. Because that film's great. I still love it. It's just a little cheesy, a little basic because it's the first like origin story.
It's a bit dated now, so
I still love it. And the mask, the Willem Dafoe mask, is a little Power Rangey, and every scene he does have it on is 10 times better.
Power Rangers and Godzilla comic versus Godzilla. Can't wait for that.
I just want a new movie.
It's the crossover that we needed.
I want Godzilla versus Gamera. We literally almost made it in the thousands. They're like, nah. Let's not give the fans what they want. If we get a multiverse Godzilla movie, I might actually not. Show what Godzilla meets up with Millennium Godzilla.
I think the multiverse is going to start to become the trend soon. I mean,
because like it makes you money, and they're doing that with the Flash.
We haven't even talked about how this has become. This is now the 3rd highest grossing opening weekend of all time, which is a really big deal. I knew this was going to be
the biggest one of this year, for sure. But like,
it's a really big deal. The only films above this one opening weekend are Endgame and Infinity War, which shows that superhero movies do kind of dominate the box office, especially Marvel. And it also shows the return to theaters, which is really nice to see, and it gets me really excited. So.
But yeah, I mean, there was like a party going on downstairs. But this has been going on for like an hour.
Yeah, about an hour. We can probably wrap it up soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. it was really cool to just see all the villains talk to each other and interact. And the Doctor Strange and Peter dynamic was different. I was a little afraid it was just going to be like the last two Spider movies where he just had like an Avenger mentor figure. Because like he had like Iron Man and then Nick Fury. There wasn't actually Nick Fury.
Right.
Which, how do they know that? Because at the end of like, Nick Fury's been gone for like a year in space specifically. And it's like, how do you know that? Isn't he famously known for being off the grid?
Yeah.
Did he also fake his death? And then this one I was afraid it was just going to be Doctor Strange doing that. And it didn't really make sense. Doctor Strange isn't like the mentor type to me. He's kind of like an isolated individual. And he's like literally like said to Spider-Man like the last movie, he's like, I will let you die if it means like I get, if the stone lives.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hey, can you like be my dad? And then like, also there's that weird line where he's like, always forget you're just a kid. And it's like, he just said he's trying to apply to college.
He's just applying to
What are you talking about?
Even call the school before trying to get me to change the entire universe.
And like the ending, we didn't really talk about that. The ending where he decides not to like reveal his identity again to like MJ and everybody, was a very Spider-Man.
I think it was too.
That suit that he made himself at the end, that's so Raimi and Amazing Spider-Man. That's so Spider-Man. It sets it up to be a much more Spider-Man like narrative that like we know in the next films, but like in the MCU, which is gonna be very interesting. I'm very excited for Spider-Man 4. This is probably the most excited I've been for an actual like sequel continuation of the story for a while.
Same with me because
I wasn't super excited after Far From Home because I was interested, but then like once like the actual like multiverse stuff came up, I was more excited.
Once they revealed everything about this,
because it was originally gonna be a Craven film.
Yeah.
But then Sony's like, we want to make a Craven film without Spider-Man. They're like, okay, just let us make what we want. And then
but yeah, and then
this is like an end to the character for now because like it follows the trend of all the MCU trilogies. Like the third film, like the main character loses like a lot because like Iron Man 3 loses his arc reactor, Thor loses his hammer, Captain America loses his shield for the time being. This one he loses like
everything.
His identity.
It was a really somber ending, specifically between he and MJ. And I'm really excited to see how they continue.
I feel like they'll probably get back together.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna like spend like that's gonna be the plot of the next.
Hopefully
film.
Hopefully it's not the next film, but like maybe eventually.
Yeah, I mean maybe the end of next film if they build to it properly. But like I think it should.
I thought this movie was gonna be a mess, and they structured it pretty well. So I don't know what's happening next because the director of this film, who directed all three of these, by the way,
it is a little messy, but like it's still really good.
Yeah, he directed all three of these, and now he's doing the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
So like, who's doing the next?
Hopefully we can finally get a good Fantastic Four movie.
Is he gonna do the next? Is he gonna do the next Spider-Man movie? Like right after? Is he okay? Okay.
Yeah, like kind of like James Gunn.
If I was the director of this, it'd be so wild to be working with all these actors from the past and literally directing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield like together. I honestly think that one bit where like they talk about his back and like it's just like your amazing lines. I feel like that was improv, but like
it might have been. Who knows?
Because like it feels like no way that was just like scripted. Where it's just like oh my back.
I mean, they all three still have the Spider-Man feel, which is why I always liked them at least somewhat. All three of them.
They could have phoned it in and they didn't. They still put in their role and like gave satisfactory. Like if I never see Andrew Garfield or Tom Maguire again as Spider-Man, this was like a good enough swan song.
Yeah.
I don't need to see him again. They did their deal.
It was definitely satisfactory to me. And
I think Tobey Maguire for sure has had his run, but like Andrew Garfield got cut very short because he had some terrible movies. But like him himself, he really loved the role. So it's good that he's getting praise now.
Yeah.
Because he was very sad after losing the role.
Right.
And Tobey, I think, was too, because he was excited to do Spider-Man 4, but then, like, nah. For it. And then... Cookie.
Ultimately, I really enjoyed this film, and I think it's worth it for Spider-Man fans, superhero films. I definitely think it's worth it. Matthew's just popping off over here. But it's one of the best films of the year. I'd say it's the second best movie I've seen out of this year.
Probably the best theater.
It was probably the best theater experience. I think Dune was a better movie. I loved Dune. It was amazing. But I probably like subjectively enjoyed this one more. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I got you in the feels and like Doc Ock was like the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Where is he? Where is he? He's like I don't fucking know you, dude.
But I really did love this movie, and I think it was definitely worth it. I'm gonna give it a strong 7 out of 10.
Probably saying, yeah.
So
7.5 at most.
Yeah. So that's probably all I have to say. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Tobey Maguire was in this movie. Like, I'm still processing that. Like, at the end of credits, like, when it said their names at the end, I was like, wait.
Tobey Maguire?
Like, you actually got them back. Like, how? How much money did you give Tobey Maguire to, like,
how much
money? Yeah. How much money?
It was amazing.
Also, but, like, actually act. Like, actually put in effort.
Yeah, he did a great job.
And I still would have, like, loved it.
I definitely really enjoyed it. So, if you enjoyed the discussion, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment your thoughts down below.
Or a Patreon.
We don't have a Patreon. Maybe we will one day.
Yet. Give us money.
Okay.
Come on. $2 a month. Pay the bills here.
$2 a month. All right,
subscribe to our $10 a month.
Thank you so much for listening. We're back in person for the next few. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, what are we talking about next week? Matrix?
Christmas movies.
Matrix 4.
Are you going to see Matrix 4?
You can watch it on HBO for free. I might. Only if I watch the first 3 for some reason in like one sitting.
Well, I want to at least rewatch the first one because I remember that one being really good. So
I've never seen the first one.
You should probably watch the first one. I own
the 3 on 4K because I got it as a gift.
Then watch it.
Well, I work. They're like 2 hours each.
Have a great day or night wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe and hit the bell.
And subscribe. Didn't you already say that?
Yep.
So we're talking Christmas.
I'm starting to repeat myself because you're so ridiculous.
Redonkulous. Listen, guys, hear me out. Did you steal that guy's pizza?
He stole that guy's pizza!